Any progressive state seeking to protect its borders and interests must have military power. Overall, the continent is doing well against world superpowers. Today we are going to talk about top 10 strongest armies in Africa. Before starting this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more future updates. Number 10. Libya. Since Muammar Gaddafi's ouster, the country in North Africa has been devoid of peace and stability. The military has a sizable stockpile of equipment, which you have probably guessed is financed by oil dollars. The country is currently divided between a Tripoli-based government and a rogue general, General Haftar, who has the support of Western powers such as the United States. The Tripoli government is fighting to keep the forces out of the city because it lacks a fully integrated force. Regardless, the country still has 2,500 armored fighting vehicles, 500 tanks, 600 towed artillery pieces, and 6,500 logistical vehicles at its disposal. Number 9. Democratic Republic of Congo. With 86 million people, the Democratic Republic of the Congo is Africa's second most populous country. The United Nations Stabilization Mission, known as Blue Helmets, is still present in the country because the country's own forces are not fully prepared to handle peacekeeping operations. Following a period of civil war, the country's security reform began in 2003 and is still grappling with the effort to integrate armed non-state actors into national security institutions. Although there is an active force of 134,000 personnel, it is still lagging behind in training when compared to other forces. Number 8. Sudan. Heroes turned villains is likely the most contentious entry in this year's list. The military deposed longtime ruler Omar al-Bashir after months of protests and a sit-in at its headquarters. However, reports of military brutality have emerged from Sudan in recent weeks, as talks between civilian representatives and the military have come to a halt. The military's strength grew over the decades of al-rule, Bashir's, and it has recently received funding from Saudi Arabia after seizing power. The military has a total of 104,000 personnel on active duty, 191 aircraft, 410 combat tanks, 403 armored fighting vehicles, and 18 naval assets. Number 7. Morocco. Earlier this year, King Mohammed VI called on the government to recruit 10,000 Moroccans for compulsory military service this year, with a target of 15,000 by 2020. The Royal Army has a total of 196,000 active personnel. It has 291 aircraft, 2,720 armored vehicles, 1,109 tanks, and a navy with 121 assets at its disposal. In March, the Army also began a joint military exercise with the US called African Lion 2019, which was aimed at preparing it for the fight against violent extremism and terrorism. Number 6. Angola. The Angola Armed Forces, FFA, are made up of three branches: the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. President Lourenço's transformation agenda swept through the armed forces earlier this year, with 88 generals relieved of their duties. This comes a year after the Chief of Staff was fired after the Attorney General named him in a corruption investigation. The eggs from what the President refers to as the Golden Goose oil reserves have allowed the southern African country to fund a sizable military budget. It currently has an active force of up to 100,000 troops, supported by 585 armored fighting vehicles, 300 tanks, 285 aircraft, and a navy of 57 ships. Number 5. Ethiopia. Despite being landlocked and lacking the advantages of the top three, Ethiopia is the only country in the top 5 without a maritime border. Ethiopia has spent a lot of money and effort developing its army and air force. Since taking office, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has maintained a cordial relationship with the military, with military officials seen touring some of the PM's projects and being briefed on his vision for the country. Ethiopia currently has 140,000 troops on active duty, with nearly 2 million people reaching military age each year. Number 4. Nigeria. For the better part of a decade, the West African Army has been at odds with the Boko Haram insurgency. Despite significant gains made during Buhari's first term, there have been a few setbacks in the past year as the army is more trained for conventional warfare rather than the insurgents' guerrilla tactics. An abundant domestic oil supply, as in Algeria and Egypt, reduces the financial burden of military conflict. Nigeria has over 1,800 armored vehicles, 250 tanks, and 6,000 logistical vehicles, as well as nearly 300 aircraft and 25 high-powered naval vessels at its disposal. The country's naval power lags behind that of its African counterparts with maritime borders. Number 3. South Africa. South Africa uses its highly advanced military for peacekeeping and international cooperation because it has not been involved in an international military conflict for some time. Despite the lack of conflict, the country has a massive $4.6 billion defense budget. Its aircraft and naval vessels are notoriously well equipped with cutting-edge technology, and despite having fewer than 100,000 active frontline personnel, the country has the capabilities and manpower to support much more. When you combine that with a vast array of land system technology, the South African military is a force to be reckoned with. Number 2. Algeria. Algeria, like its North African counterpart, has taken advantage of its large maritime border. The country has developed massive military capabilities on land, in the air, and in the sea. However, the country is ranked a distant second in the world, in 27th place. Algeria has more than 130,000 active frontline troops and nearly 2,000 armored fighting vehicles at its disposal. The country is in turmoil following the resignation of its long-serving president, but the military has also found a voice as instability and civil unrest persist. Number 1. Egypt. Egypt ranks first in terms of military strength due to the sheer size of its armed forces. The North African powerhouse is ranked 12th in the world. The Egyptian armed forces are made up of the Egyptian Army, the Egyptian Navy, the Egyptian Air Force, and the Egyptian Air Defense Command. Its active frontline force has nearly 500,000 personnel, far outnumbering all of its African counterparts. It possesses nearly 10,000 armored fighting vehicles, 60,000 logistical vehicles, 1,092 aircraft, and substantial oil reserves. Its naval strength, which includes both traditional carriers and nuclear-powered submarines, distinguishes it greatly. Since the military coup that deposed Morsi and installed al-Sisi as president, the military has been consolidating power. That's a wrap for today's video about top 10 strongest armies in Africa. Hope you enjoyed the video. What do you think about our list? Let us know in the comment section below. Also, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more future updates.